you on. Gon' put your stilettos on. Big steppers in here on God, you baby soft like my leather on. Leave that nigga, you better. I can make you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Earley Show. I'm your host, Cole Earley. Thanks for tuning in. I got one of my guests, Joe Bennett. This is Joe. Joe, to get started, a couple kind of background questions. Give us hometown, what are you studying, and what's your athletic history?
Hello everybody, super happy to be on the Earley Show. My name is Joe Bennett. I'm from Rapid City, South Dakota. I was born there, did some moving around to some different towns and cities. Colorado, spent some college time in Phoenix, came back up here to South Dakota. I have two older sisters who were athletically inclined. I had a dad who played professional baseball and a mom who played Division I volleyball. Long story behind that laugh. But,
Okay.
My athletic background is heavy in basketball. I grew up playing pretty much everything you can think of, which I owe a lot of that to my foundation. Not being so focused on one sport, I didn't get really focused on a sport until I was about, well, realistically like 20. But I chose to only play basketball when I was about 17.
So growing up, what were those sports?
Baseball, swimming, track, soccer until I was like 10, maybe.
Yeah. And then 17
Was
went basketball.
Pretty much just basketball, correct.
Okay. And then you played at DSU.
I spent a year of, when I really got serious about basketball, I was down in Scottsdale. I played for the Artichokes. Well, I didn't play. I was a part of the program, we'll say that.
Okay.
We had a really good team right there, so there was,
I've been there.
yeah, a lot of good players that I was happy to learn from and practiced against and all that stuff. Phoenix was a little bit too far away from home for me. And Dakota State offered me an opportunity to actually kind of get on the court and play compared to being behind a bunch of really elite level players. Not to take away from my abilities, but Scottsdale is when I really figured out that there's levels to this sports stuff. You know, especially growing up in South Dakota, unfortunately, we have a way smaller pool of elite athletes.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier to stand out here. You don't get a taste for how good people really are. And Scottsdale did that for
Kind
me.
of what woke you up.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it definitely happened in my career too.
Mhm.
You know, when you transfer to America, I'm like, oh shit, like these guys can jump.
Yeah, it's a lot of people's entire lives. Not saying I didn't take it serious, but
You're 6'1" and white.
yeah.
Okay, Joe. So why we have Joe on the podcast today is because Joe may be 6'1" and white, but Joe can jump.
I swear I'm 6'2".
He's 6'2", but he can jump through the roof. So that's something that in my early days, like when I was really focused on basketball, all about jumping. I was jumping daily, box jumps, da-da-da. And then I got into lifting, and I jump here and there, but definitely not as much as you do. You did, and so I'll put some clips of Joe jumping up here. But when did you? Because if I'm right, you, I don't want to say specialize in bounce, but like that's definitely a core focus of training.
Definitely. One, it all started with, you know, the basketball court. If you've ever watched, played, or even know anything about basketball, you know you have to be able to jump in basketball.
Yeah.
If you can't jump, you better be damn tall, right? So that's definitely where that started, was wanting to, one, grab the rim. I think I did send you a clip when I was little 15-year-old stick figure Joe grabbing the rim for the first time. And then you get that first dunk, and then you get knee pain because you don't know how to lift, but you can still jump high, but it hurts. And then wanting to just see what my potential is and kind of giving me a reason to train, I believe, is kind of where my jumping aspirations come from. I know training is good for you. Everybody should be exercising and lifting weights.
When you say train, you mean training as in general, weights,
Right.
And, not
Yes.
just jump, just train.
Exercise.
Deliberate
Exercise with intent. And for me, sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
you're good.
I just needed a goal to have while training, essentially. Since I stopped playing basketball, I needed something to go after that was fun, attainable, and something that I had a good foundation in already. So
I think that's a great point, like having a goal. Because sometimes I'll go in the gym when I'm not going for a weight or going for a physique goal. I'm like, yo, like, what am I doing here?
it takes away from the workout itself. Each individual workout, if you don't have a long-term goal, you're not gonna have that switch in your head to go harder, do the extra rep, or in some cases, not do as many reps.
Yeah.
We'll get into later. So
I use the word intensity. It takes away like, oh, this is what I'm trying to do. So just touching on my notes, so you started really focusing on your balance after you stopped playing basketball.
yes, obviously I cared, and I was lifting weights and doing enough to improve. But once I really started getting into the ins and outs of one, how to jump better, two, how to jump higher, three, how to deal with the pain that comes with constant jumping. When I was 20, wanting to go play college basketball in Scottsdale, I had no idea how to train, like at all.
Yeah.
I was just, I don't want to say lucky, but with my athletic foundation, getting up and dunking is something I was able to do before I really keyed in on the training.
So you did have okay, so let's talk about your training before, I'm gonna use the word specialized. So before you specialized on kind of increasing that vertical, what was your training like in Scottsdale? Like in high school, kind of leading up to the before you specialized?
High school, regrettably, almost any athlete in any sport can think about the things they would do differently.
Yeah.
150%. Well, first off, I didn't lift weights in high school, hence why I developed some pretty serious knee pain.
Okay.
I was playing all this basketball, doing all this jumping. I didn't touch a weight, and maybe I'll show Cole some more pictures of what I looked like.
Yeah.
You can tell I did not touch weights.
I'll put one up. I'll put one up right here.
One of those things. You're young, you're dumb, you just want to play your sport.
Yeah.
I wasn't like the best student. I was just always thinking about practice, all that stuff. And that same kind of attitude also translated to the weight room. Like, I don't want to mess up my jump shot. I don't want to be sore because we got this and that.
I don't want to get too big.
Nobody has ever gotten too big on accident. Yeah. Let's just be clear on that.
Yeah.
So Scottsdale, it was very, very basic. I had a gym in my apartment complex. I would attend team lifts. If you know anything about junior college, you do not get access to a strength coach. A lot of junior colleges are lucky to even have access to a weight room in general. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's some really high level junior colleges that have all that stuff, but in general, you're not gonna find that at junior college. So I'll go to my hotel gym, do your basic front squats on the Smith machine and dumbbell curls and shoulder press and bench press and all that stuff, and didn't get a lot from it because I didn't know how to do the stuff properly.
Okay.
And being in Phoenix, it was like shirt off time all the time. I know it's not related to athletic training, but
it's related to fitness for sure.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
I moving down to that bigger population pool, I was a small dude, and I was lucky to be over 6 foot.
Yeah.
On the court and in general. So everything changed when I got to Dakota State for sure.
Okay. So what I'm taking is before you had this athletic foundation before you came to Dakota State, and one thing I noticed, like, you're jumping all the time. You're playing basketball all the time, so you're jumping. Verticals naturally getting a little better. But not until you transferred here, then your training switched.
Correct.
Okay, so talk me through that, the start, because I know you sent me a bunch of your exercises now that are pretty, when I watch them, they're pretty deliberate, right? They're very intentional.
Right.
What did you start with? What was kind of your it's kind of too generic. What exercises did you focus on in your when you first started to specialize? What were the foundational exercises that you were like, I need to do these?
Okay. So when I first got here to Dakota State, the first strength coach I had ever been around, his name was Stephen Vasilati. Super good at what he does, full-blown expert. You know, you can trust what this guy has to say.
Yeah.
He began my understanding on the importance of lifting heavy, like all jumping aside. Yes, we did jumping and all that stuff, but what really changed for me was power cleans.
Really?
Like if I were to point to one thing that really emphasized the importance of moving a load fast,
Yeah.
you know, getting low underneath it and then moving it again, that was exercise. I was like, holy crap, I am literally taking leaps above where I was before.
Oh,
because
really?
I'm power cleaning, I'm front squatting, all this stuff with like set reps and sets. So shout out Vass. He's a lot more traditional than a lot of stuff you'll see today. But he's the one that really got my muscles overloaded and introduced me to progressive overload and the traditional power and strength movements.
What you're talking about, when you said power clean, you're talking about cleans.
Yep.
Ah.
Yep. From the floor, getting underneath it, and you know, I cracked 200 pounds a couple times.
Damn.
You know, yeah, that's impressive for me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, haven't done them in a long time because my training has switched, which we'll get into obviously, but understanding that you are only, you know, just jumping, just running, just playing basketball is only going to get you so far.
Okay.
And so Vass really, I enjoyed going to lift. I enjoyed feeling sore. I enjoyed doing all that stuff. And my athleticism, you know, reflected that.
So it started with the power clean.
Correct.
Is that a fair statement?
I would say that's what I enjoyed most. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff in there. But I always looked forward to power clean days. Just because, you know, it emulates a jump and the results I saw from it, I think, is what.
That's funny. I remember in high school, I had one coach Matthew Kuykendall, he told me to do the power clean.
Mm-hmm.
I did it for 2 sessions, and you know, I was so bad at it that I never did it again. But okay, so I've seen Joe back scratch and dunk easy, right? So start at the power clean, and you got a little more, I'm sure you got a little more educated.
Mm-hmm.
So what exercise would you say you saw your vertical, like when you started to do that exercise consistently? What exercise, maybe that's a silly question, but what exercise did you say, holy shit, like my vertical is going up because I'm doing this X amount of times a week? Maybe it's the power clean.
Power clean was it. I need to get back into them. I'm actually doing them for a class here at Dakota State, so it's kind of cool. I get points to power clean. Shout out the strength and conditioning minor. Jumping with maximum effort. There is nothing that, you know, the principle of specificity.
Yeah.
You want to get better at something, you better do that one thing. Right?
Okay.
So the lifting, the sprinting, the running hills, you know, the upper body lifts, you know, being stronger is always going to help whatever athletic feat you want to accomplish, correct?
Yeah.
I'm glad we can agree on that. You hear a lot of BS out there that's like, you don't want to be too strong. It's like,
Yeah.
what a great problem to have.
Get
Too
strong.
right? So once you have that foundation that Vass gave me in terms of strength, that's when I really started getting into the plyometric scene and just mentally doing stuff at maximum effort. Not only the physical stimulus that you get from max effort, like the mental victories, knowing that you did it as hard as you possibly could,
Yeah.
and you're going to do it all again. It doesn't matter what the number is or isn't, as long as you did that rep as hard as you can, and the next one, and the next one. That's when I started to see that vertical number really go up.
That's actually really funny you say that. You didn't give me, I asked for an exercise, and you gave me like a mindset, which I kind of was almost like jump as high as you can. Like, put your full, whatever it is, do it like as hard as you can.
Right. And it's easy, not easy, but it's safer with jumping, like without a load compared to I'm gonna do a back squat as heavy and as hard as I possibly can. Like for me personally, that's not safe. I'm gonna likely hurt my back or something of the sorts. And I'm sure that's true for a lot of other people.
Yeah.
The term ego lifting is so true.
Yeah. For sure.
Where yes, lifting heavy weight is great. You need that stimulus if you want to be more powerful. But there's nothing that can change the stimulus that you get when you run as fast as you can, jump as high as you can, as far as you can. But then also having those days that you need to scale back to. So
okay. So I'm gonna summarize that. Is Joe's one lift recommendation is do it as hard as you can, whatever that may be.
Even if it's not a heavy load, there'll be some clips in here of a specific exercise I do with the trap bar, and even though it's not high, the jump isn't high, I'm doing it as fast as quick as I can.
Pause.
Did I stop on you?
Okay. Good. One second.
That last part wasn't very important.
Okay. Welcome back. As a little intermission. So, Joe sent me some clips of him working on his jump. And I'm kind of breaking them down into four ways. We have weighted lifts, non-weighted lifts, and I noticed that in some of the videos I'll put up on the screen, in some clips, Joe jumped far. Like, I know that's such a kind of a silly thing to say, but purposely jumping far instead of jumping vertical. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a difference that when I trained for jumping, I was always doing this rather than that.
Right.
So yeah, let's go over some of, let's start with the weight. So you were doing, I saw the trap bar jump. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can pull up a video for
just so we can break it down a little better. Trap bar is one of the best pieces of equipment you can have if you're trying to develop lower body power.
Really?
In my opinion. That can be up for debate.
Okay, so now we're looking at the trap. Ooh. Which one was it? There we go. Okay, we're looking at the trap bar lift. So lightweight. Mm-hmm. You're not trying to deadlift 500 pounds.
Nope.
Your trap bar, we got 10s on there?
Yes. So that would be 75 pounds. Or 85. Sorry, that trap bar is 65 pounds.
Okay. So you're just doing, it would be up here somewhere, but you're just doing trap bar kind of more lighter end, hard as you can, mm-hmm. up and down.
Correct. And I want you to notice before I start the jump, you see how my feet leave the ground for a split second?
Yeah.
That is to get that springy return. You leave the ground with your feet, absorb the force, transfer it up as fast as you can. That's why depth drops are super popular and important to incorporate within jump training. The force absorption and the translation straight up.
The up down.
Yep, the quick up down.
Just sit run that back.
Mm-hmm. And it's just an inch my feet leave the ground before I completely get into my jump and explode up. The reason I do that is to just make it as similar to sport performance as possible. Mm-hmm. So if I stand there and I just do the eccentric quickly and go up, I'm still gonna get a lot of good stimulus from that. In my case of wanting to train basketball players at a high level, is a basketball player ever going to be standing in one place and jumping straight up as high as they can?
Rarely.
Very, very, very rarely. So the reason your feet leave the ground first is just to get that absorption as if a basketball player were changing direction or coming down with a rebound and having to go back up sort of thing. So just putting myself in with that lightweight, obviously I can handle that. I could probably do more, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
What we talked about earlier with the effort and intent, that's 85 pounds, down and up as fast as I can. And then, it's not the safest thing to do with heavyweight. That's why I keep it low.
Yeah.
And that's a big, what's the word? Like conditioning thing for your tendons and your muscles and all that. Imagine 85 extra pounds pulling you down, and that quick little translation, you do that enough, your tendons are going to adapt.
Okay.
And your body weight is, going to feel lighter to your tendons and all that stuff. So.
Okay, so this is one that you would highly recommend to kids, adults trying to get their bounce up.
If you are pain-free.
If you are pain-free. You mentioned that a bunch of times.
Yes.
You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea to go before we talk about these exercises.
Okay.
Because people that I try and help out see me do this stuff, especially not kids, but like teenagers.
Yeah.
And first question I always ask them is like, do you have any ankle pain, knee pain, hip pain, any of that stuff?
Okay, so I'm gonna prop your scenario. My name's Cole, right?
Hey, Cole.
That is I. I played Division III basketball for 2 years, right? After I stopped playing, I was playing at 180 pounds. I stopped playing. I did gain a bunch of muscle, but I also gained a bunch of fat. So now when I jump and try to jump, I think it's tendonitis in my knees, but I have knee pain because I'm so much heavier than, and I don't think I've correctly trained my lower part of the body to carry, it hurts sometimes. If I get back into jumping and I start hooping, I start running a lot, my knees suck.
Right.
So how would you talk me through that? And yeah, how would you talk me through that?
So tendons are super, super annoying, and more than likely you will know if it's a serious injury that you need to immobilize and, only lock in on rehab, right?
Yeah.
When you say tendonitis, I've seen and studied and had so many cases right in the front of your knee.
Yeah.
Right here on the
Yeah.
correct? So as long as it's not blown up, completely swollen, you can put pressure on it, but it's a little uncomfortable. The pain sucks. Obviously, nobody wants to be in pain. But the best thing that I can say in your scenario specifically is to find those uncomfortable positions and load them up without impact. So the running and the jumping aggravate your knee.
Yeah.
The best straightforward advice I can give in terms of those kinds of injuries, stop running and jumping. Right? I'm not ridiculing you for that, but it's hard, especially when you're talking to teenagers that just want to go play basketball.
Yeah.
The runner that doesn't want to stop running, same thing with me. Like, I don't want to stop jump training when I have these extra pains, but now that I have studied and made my own case study about myself, like, you gotta stop running and jumping if that's what hurts your knees.
For good?
No. So
you're telling me to gain weight, dude.
No. See, if running and jumping is important to you, that's not me telling you to stop. You need to stop until your pain has subsided and you have increased your tendon tolerance. So what I'm going to tell you to do is find that position that hurts, likely with just a squatting pattern. If there is an area in that squat where it hurts specifically, I'm going to tell you to sit there and hold it. Hold it. It's going to be uncomfortable. When you think about injuries, tendons are in between muscle and bone.
Yeah.
When you're talking about like their composition, right? So say you broke a bone, you have to put it in a cast and immobilize it. That's the best way to heal a bone. Obviously, depending on the severity of your muscle, strain, tear, whatever it might be, eventually for that muscle, you're gonna have to heat it up and start working it through its ranges of motion. For tendons, it's like somewhere right in the middle. Obviously, I'm not the expert on all this stuff.
You'll get there.
That's the goal.
Okay.
You need to, so rehabbing the muscle, you load it up very lightly, work through the ranges of motion. Bones immobilized, don't move until they can fuse back together. Tendons, you want the load in a stationary position, and that's what I mean without impact.
Okay, so now we're jumping. I'm going to pull up another video on the screen. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're jumping to this,
Yes.
the bar hold, and you had a med ball one
You have the split one somewhere over here.
somewhere. This one?
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking at two. You'll see them on the screen. We got a med ball hold and then a bar hold.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about this is what you want. You're loaded. You got weight.
Yes.
Not heavyweight yet again. You're not trying to max out your static hold. But you have lightweight and you're in that uncomfortable position. Hold it.
Correct. And I'm sure a term that a lot of people know, isometrics.
Yeah.
It is what completely changed my outlook on tendon rehab. The whole time through high school, the whole time in my early stages of college, I would rest. I need to rest. It hurts. I need to rest. I need to rest. Which is true. There are injuries you do have to rest.
Get off the fucking feet.
I'm not saying do not rest. Rest is super important. And one thing I like to live by: when you train hard, you need rest to progress.
Mm-hmm.
One doesn't have to cut the other. Obviously, you're not going to progress if you only rest.
That's a good line. Obviously, you're not going to progress unless you rest. Okay.
And so, in this wall sit clip specifically, you're going to see how badly I'm shaking. Even though the light is low, or the load is light, the time can also be considered in that load. Does that make sense?
Yes, but the endurance.
Correct.
The word I'm thinking of.
Yep.
So, So if I have knee pain right here, should my knees be in pain when I'm doing that?
As silly as it sounds, you need to have a good internal pain scale for you.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if I were telling you to do this and watching you do it, I can't feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
So you need to be honest with me. If I were your trainer, you need to be honest with yourself. How bad does it really hurt? And that goes back to what I said earlier about your body will tell you if it is a serious tear, rupture, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You will not be able to even think about sitting in that position.
Yeah.
And that goes into your nervous system, being the best nervous system known to anything ever.
Yeah.
Hence why humans are at.
I still don't
where they're at.
understand the central nervous system. I get it, but I don't get it.
So your body's the best at keeping you from hurting itself worse.
Well, I think I want to jump to the side a little bit because you mentioned something that I didn't realize until I was 20 or 21 even. Listen to your fucking body.
Yes.
And I know that's I feel like that's a silly, simple concept.
It's just so overused. Not overused. Obviously, it needs to be said.
Yeah.
But I feel like for a lot of people now, it's just in one ear, not the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so, when it comes to injuries, when it comes to in the gym, actually think about what you feel.
Yes.
And it's so telling. I don't want to say I have a carb sense, but a spidey carb sense. But sometimes I'm like, wow, I feel really shitty.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't had any, haven't had any carbs today.
Yeah. And that's when just I don't want to say basic knowledge. A lot of the stuff you can dive a lot deeper, obviously, but listening to your body is the simplest way to put it. Your body is so good, and it's designed to tell you when stuff's going wrong.
Yeah.
So when you deal with these tendon injuries, it's your body saying overworked, maybe a little tear in there, I dealt with my left one. And don't be afraid to go get it looked at, please. That's what I'm gonna rewind a little bit before I tell anybody. I went and got my knee pain looked at by an orthopedic surgeon.
You did?
So I went to the expert. This isn't YouTube University. That some of it is.
Yeah. This is YouTube University right here.
And I found out that it wasn't as serious as I thought it was, which got rid of that mental block.
Pause. I gotta check it. All right, let's keep going. We got my phone going now.
Camera there?
Yeah, but that's what I got too. It's just out of storage. Okay, where were we? Rewind. Go to an orthopedic surgeon.
Yes, if you are dealing with injuries, go see an expert, please. That is the first step to even beginning to get back to where you want to be and excel. Obviously, the surgeon isn't going to tell me what to do and what not to do for my workouts.
Yeah.
But that person told me that my knee pain is not as serious as I thought it was. Because I was in the mode, I only need to be playing basketball when I have to, and all this stuff. It really set me back because I thought my knee pain was serious.
So then you stopped.
I stopped.
You stopped.
Correct.
And then you're sitting there like, oh, well, me almost.
Mm-hmm. And then you go and play again, and guess what's still there?
Yeah.
The pain. So that's where these isometric holds are absolutely crucial. Even if you're injury free, keeping injuries away, and even better if you are dealing with a little bit of a tendon injury.
Okay, so I know we kind of jumped around a little bit, but starting, Cole has knee pain.
Mm-hmm.
First thing, get it checked out. See what it really is.
If you think it's that bad.
If you think it's that bad, and listen to your body to know, right? But then secondly, these isometric holds in that position with light weight.
Or no weight.
Or no weight, just a simple holding of it.
So the easiest way I can describe it is, in this video specifically, the shakes that I'm dealing with. I have avoided that position for years and years and years because my knee hurts, right? It kind of contradicts what we're going to say. In this situation, now that I know that my tendon injury isn't serious, I am going to tell my body to screw off for 5 minutes. And I'm going to sit in that position to remind my nervous system that it's okay. It's okay, I'm gonna be okay. I'm not gonna rupture it further because it's a load with no impact.
You said something right there. You know it's, what'd you say? Fuck.
I know it's not.
You know it's not serious.
And it's not going to get worse.
You're not gonna tear it.
Unless I keep doing the thing that made it bad in the first place.
And this is something that you weren't doing.
Correct.
Or one wasn't doing before their injury.
This is not what injured me.
Injury prevention, one would say.
So I find a position that's uncomfortable, as you see in this wall sit. That's really hard on the anterior part of the knee right there.
Yeah. That hurts me looking at that right
With
now.
or without the bar, that's a great place to sit. Put your toes up. That's a whole nother element to it. And you'll notice that I am shaking. And that is literally signals finding a way to support myself in that position. And since I avoided it for so long, my leg looks like this.
You do this for 4 months straight. Now your body knows
It's
how
going
to
to solidify. It's kind of funny. I'm sitting here like trying to not shake, but yeah, it still is a little bit.
Okay, Joe. We don't got the. I don't want to take up your whole evening, but I do want to talk about. You got a client that comes to you. You got a 16-year-old junior in high school. Or, I don't know how old, 16. Sophomore.
That age, yeah.
Okay. They come to you. They're like, Joe, I want to dunk. Coach Joe, I want to dunk, man. I want to dunk on somebody. Give me a. Yeah. What is Coach Joe saying?
You got to lift weights. There's no way around it.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Because I lift weights. I look like.
So
I look like a blob.
if I'm gonna just go based off the scenario you gave me.
Okay.
A 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Usually at first glance, you can tell somebody has lifted a weight or two.
Yeah.
More often than not. And based on the performance, not just how they look. I'm gonna ask him that. Do you lift? Actually, first thing I'm asking, do you have any pain?
Okay.
That I mentioned earlier. Are you hurting anywhere? Are you playing through anything? blah, blah, blah. 2, do you lift? How do you lift? How often? What else? And those are the 4 main things that I'm gonna ask him first.
Do you lift? If so,
Pain-free.
Are you pain-free?
Do you lift? How often? And how?
Okay.
Say no to pain, no weightlifting, and that eliminates the other 2.
Let's just say he's fucked around in the weight room a little bit, but he doesn't lift.
He doesn't have any pain.
Right. This is Johnny Boy.
Okay.
Right.
So say if we're going to start tomorrow on Monday.
Yeah.
Monday we are going to lift moderately heavy loads, deadlifts, lunges, RDLs, and some sort of hip thrust, a glute bridge or something of the sorts. We are going to explore the range of motion with a load that is very similar to a jump. Deadlifts, lunges, RDLs in terms of triple extension, getting up like that, and then hitting the posterior chain with the glute bridge and hammering the glutes, which is the biggest muscle in your body, in case you didn't know.
Joe's fun fact of the pod.
My glutes are lacking. So Monday, to start the week, we're going to explore that range of motion with the load.
Yeah.
The focus is, obviously, you need a good warm up. Get warmed up. Warm up.
Warm up.
I don't care what it is. Warm up.
Yeah.
And we're going to see how his form looks with these very, very light lifts. If he has a very basic knowledge, and this is where I come in to coach him on form stuff, obviously. So say we have form taken care of. We're going to load it up moderately heavy. Nothing that takes.
You're not powerlifting.
Correct.
You're not
we are
powerlifting.
not looking for concentrics that take more than a second and a half to get to the top.
Okay. So
We
this is not bleeding through the nose. This
Correct.
is just a little more weight.
Yep.
Getting it up.
We got to move it fast. I encourage anybody listening to this to go look at the force velocity curve.
Okay.
I'll show you a picture of it.
I think I've seen this.
Yeah. So this is the force velocity curve.
I'll put it.
And if you look at
Peak
the
power.
y-axis is force,
Yeah.
x-axis is velocity. You have maximum way over here, obviously, and you have maximum up here. At the top, that's going to be like that's your 1 rep max, essentially. It takes
Powerlifting.
you 3, 4, 5 seconds to get to the top and lock it out. We want to live in this middle zone for athletic performance.
Peak power, speed, strength.
Right. And this guy wants to dunk, right? So he's going to have to jump fast and with a lot of force.
Yeah.
You don't want to completely neglect the load. That's why on this Monday, we're going to do moderately heavy. Something you can handle, or she. It'd be really cool to train a teenage girl how to dunk one day. That'd be awesome. So, and we want to keep the sets low. Reps low, sets high, because we still want to hit the volume.
Okay.
But each rep
keep talking. Keep talking.
needs to be fast, or as fast as you can. That goes to what I said earlier about maximum effort. It might not be heavy for you, or it might be super heavy for you. You have to try and move that load as fast as you can.
This is week 1.
Yes.
This is Monday.
This is Monday.
Monday, we're moving.
And since it's week 1, the load's not going to be very heavy. I want to emphasize that. As the weeks go on, obviously progressive overload, a principle that everybody should know if you're going to exercise and train. So we went through loads that emulate jumping, deadlifts, lunges, RDLs, glute bridges, triple extension, all that good stuff.
Okay. Triple extension.
That would be your ankles, your knees, and your hips, and your torso, all extending at the correct times. I don't want to say at the same
jumping
time.
motion.
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be dorsiflexion, extension, all at the same time in the most efficient way.
And that may be jumping.
Yes.
Okay.
To get yourself off the ground. Super important. You need fluidity to jump well, so you have to practice triple extension. Supersetting within those moderately heavy, fast lifts, we're going to do mobility.
Okay.
Range of motion is super important. We're not going to introduce loaded mobility yet.
So are you talking about mobility work in the same session?
Correct.
Or, so it's Monday's lift. We're doing, I'll direct you to Joe's page and stuff for more detailed shit. But so Monday we're doing heavier loads, whatever. Monday we're doing heavier loads paired with eccentric. With mobility.
Yep. There's a bunch of different, mobility is a super broad term. But the mobility is going to have a heavy core element.
Yeah.
Because no matter what your goal is, athletically, in the weight room, whatever, your core, is handling most of the force most of the time.
Yeah.
Landing, going up on a deadlift, down and up on a squat, all that stuff. Your core is super important. So the mobility that we have, yes, is going to add a stretching element to the leg muscles, but it's going to be very twisty and turny oriented to also engage the core while having that cohesive element of lengthening your leg muscles as well.
Okay. So, and then, so that's going to be kind of, I'm going to say, the mold of the lifts in this, they call it a jump rope. You're going to have a component which is weighted, again, not powerlifting, but weighted to a degree in that middle range, and then have a mobility component.
Yes. A lot of people get caught up in having an entire day that's dedicated to mobility, which is good. You need to have some form of mobility in your program. But a lot of people see it as similar to core exercises. It's so easy, or it's much easier to superset it within the stuff that you want to do. Right? While you're resting.
It's so easy to not do.
Yeah.
It's so easy to not do.
So when you're already amped up, feeling good about lifting, while you're resting, put your hip through the mobility thing I gave you, or whatever it might be. And then you got your rest in for the muscle group that you're working, and you just hammered your mobility. Back to the next set, back to the mobility.
So, okay, now we're going to wrap this up here. Sorry, Joe.
It's okay.
So throughout the week, is it kind of, and yet again, I'm pointing to Joe's direction. Do you make jump plans?
I can. I will.
He will make jump plans. So if you want a jump plan and you're a 16-year-old girl or boy that wants a jump plan, reach out to Joe.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the mold of your workouts focused on, I'm going to use the word athleticism, but specifically vertical and jumping athleticism.
Yep. And if you don't mind, I can run you through what the rest of the week would look like after Monday. Tuesday is the day after you explore those ranges of motion with a load. Now you're going to drop the load, max effort jumps. Obviously, if you're pain free. We're not going to do any max effort stuff if you're hurting. Got to get warmed up. Get warmed up.
You hear that? Get warmed up, people.
And now we're going to throw a lot of the structure out of this stuff. And I'm going to tell this individual to jump as high as they can.
Weighted, unweighted.
We're not going to do weight week one. No way. And this would be supersets within your upper body lift. You cannot neglect your upper body, even if your goal is to jump high. Strength is never a weakness.
Whoa, I think that was, you can't neglect your upper body, even if you want to jump.
Yeah.
All right, go on.
So Tuesday, maximum effort. You can add sprints in there, jumping straight up, jump as far as you can. Low sets, low reps. It's a lot of intensity, not just within the muscles, but it's exhausting. If you haven't jumped max effort and you start training with it, you need to keep that low because each rep needs that quality. Wednesday is going to be your cardio. You need to do cardio if you want to get off the ground better. Pardon my language, I don't mean this in an offensive way at all to anybody, but fat does not fly. Fat don't fly.
Fat don't fly.
Nope.
So Joseph Bennett.
Yep. This is going to be your core and cardio day. And when I say cardio, avoid long runs. Running at long distances on concrete specifically is a lot of impact over and over and over again. Those are little jumps in themselves when you run. So we want to avoid long runs, get on the elliptical, get on the stair stepper, You get active recovery in your legs. After that, Thursday, we're going to do the isometrics that we talked about, sitting in positions for a long time and keeping tension in your muscles. This is a tendon-focused leg day. Light load or no load, sit in a position that your body's unfamiliar with. You almost want to chase these shakes because that is neural pathways getting sent that don't get sent, which is kind of training, base level, you know, like doing this so my brain and my body gets better at it. That is training. So these isometric holds are just so important. You need to do them injury or injury free. And then after Thursday, you did a good amount of isometrics. Friday is going to be a little bit of everything. Move light loads fast, move heavy loads fast, maximum effort jumps, low level plyos, and acceleration. I would add sprinting to that too. Saturday, you need to rest completely. The most you should do, walk. Get it moving. Walk
So
a little
Friday you touched on a lot of different things.
Yes.
Yet again, I'm going to direct you to Joe's pages to see that stuff, because I feel like that can, you can get a little more detail with what that looks like.
The exercises, some sets and reps and all that stuff.
On Thursday, you said it was
Isometrics.
isometrics. Are you pairing that with a upper lower body weighted lift?
Upper body. Yep.
Upper body weighted lift.
If you need to, if you want to.
Yeah.
Because I also, you know, for Wednesday, cardio and core, like, just don't neglect your upper body. Obviously, the goal is to jump higher. Just don't neglect your upper body. Do something. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Sunday, I just encourage you to just roll around on your floor for a little bit. Explore different ranges of motions. Break a little sweat. You know, Saturday was your total rest. You know, you're not moving a lot of load or running or jumping or anything like that. Go for a little walk on Saturday and Sunday. Get moving. So then you're not going into Monday,
Start of your training week.
you know, all stiff from the weekend because you sat and did nothing. So
I like that line you said. Explore your ranges of motion.
yeah,
That's pretty. I've never really
just.
I know
man,
maybe
like,
you're being comical about the roll on your floor, but I don't think you were.
You won't believe how often I just like roll around my bedroom floor and just like find a place that's like a little bit uncomfortable to just sit in for a while. And obviously there can be structure, and there should be some structure to that. Go look up a yoga routine or something that'll just break your sweat a little bit on Sunday, so you can go into Monday feeling good, feeling mobile, so you can lift again.
Joseph Bennett, thank you for coming on the Earley Show.
Absolutely, bro. It was a pleasure.
Great. This is great content.
I love talking about this stuff.
Joe's quotes of the day. First, I'll start with the serious one. Is it fair for me to say max effort? When you're doing these jumps, fucking jump.
If you're pain free.
If you're pain free. And the second quote of the day, fat don't fly. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the Earley Show. Thanks for tuning in.
Effort and intent. That is the best way to make progress, is intent and effort. Thank you.
Shake and look at the camera.
YouTube, it's the Earley Show. What? Tap in on YouTube, it's the Earley Show. Okay. Tap in on YouTube, it's the Earley Show.